Welcome back to today's podcast with Olivia Legault. Today we read The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath, a compelling novel, a teenage girl slowly falling into the abyss of insanity. This is Sylvia's first and last novel. She was mainly a poet. So in the novel The Bell Jar, a teenage girl by the name of Esther Greenwood from the town of Boston, where she was a poor girl her whole life, she gets a free trip to New York City with all the expenses paid and a bunch of events planned from winning a fashion magazine contest. And going to New York, she thinks it's this fun thing, like once in a lifetime opportunity, and it is. But when she's in New York, she realizes a lot of things. She encounters new things that she's never encountered, meets new people, and really kind of loses herself rather than finds herself. There always knew what she wanted to do for life, for, her job, all that. She wanted to be a writer, and that's what she's there doing. But eventually Esther Greenwood ends up just losing herself rather than finding out her true passion. She loses motivation to do everything. She feels like nothing is real, everything's just an idea. She can't see past the age that she is now. She doesn't see her future. She doesn't want to be there. She doesn't want to be herself. Herself, she's realized, is just a mess. During this novel, eventually Esther she tries to kill herself in many different ways, but when it comes down to actually doing it, she can't bring herself to do it because she doesn't want to die. She just doesn't want the life that she has. She's confused. She doesn't have the help that she needs. Another really big quote in this novel that really brings up the central idea of not knowing your future and all that. I saw myself sitting in the crotch of this fig tree, starving to death, just because I couldn't make up my mind which of the figs I would choose. I wanted each and every one of them, but choosing one meant losing all the rest. And as I sat there, unable to decide, the figs began to wrinkle and go black, and one by one they plopped to the ground at my feet. This quote really brings the attention to how many options that she has in her life, how many different ways she could go, but can't bring herself to do any of them. All of the ideas, which this is a whole metaphor, the sitting at the crotch of the fig tree, and all the figs are there, the paths she could choose, but none of them seem like the right path, and they all start to die and wither away, and each idea, each one of her futures dies as she sits there and doesn't choose one because she can't bring herself to choose one. She doesn't realize what this feeling is until a little bit later once she starts talking to her boss. On page 104, it was becoming more and more difficult for me to decide to do anything in those last days, and when I eventually did decide to do something, such as packing a suitcase, I only dragged all my grubby, expensive clothes out of the bureau in the closet and spread them on the chairs in the bed and the floor, and then sat and stared at them, utterly perplexed. They seemed to have a separate, mullish identity of their own that refused to be washed and folded and stowed. Nothing goes her way. She really just... She can't do anything. Everything seems like such a hassle, a chore, because she has no motivation for life, because she doesn't know where she wants to go. Another really good quote is on page 123. I saw the years of my life spaced along, a road in the form of telephone poles, threaded together by wires. I counted 19 telephone poles, and then the wires dangled into space, and try as I would, I couldn't see a single pole beyond the 19th. She's 19 years old, she's a teenager, and she physically cannot see her future. She can see all of them. She can see all the telephone poles from her past, but there are no more. There's no path for her future. Another really good quote is on page 142. Then my gaze slid over the people to the blaze of green beyond the diaphanous curtains, and I felt as if I were sitting in the window of an enormous department store. The figures around me weren't people, but shop dummies, painted to resemble people and propped up in attitudes counterfeiting life. And this quote really shows how nobody is themselves. She looks at people and she sees them as all the same. None of them, they don't have a life. She sees them as a type of a shop dummy. Like they're all going about their life without really thinking of it. She's thinking of life and bringing it to a whole next level, while these people are just going about, and she doesn't understand why. And she, instead of alienating herself, she thinks of these other people as weird rather than her. The last quote, and probably the most important, is on page 147. But when it came right down to it, the skin of my wrist looked so white and defenseless that I couldn't do it. It was as if what I wanted to kill wasn't in that skin or the thin blue pulse that jumped under my thumb, but somewhere else, deeper, more secret, and a whole lot harder to get at. In the show, every time she goes to take her own life, to escape reality, she can't bring herself to do it, and she realizes that she doesn't want to kill herself. She wants to kill what is inside of her. The loss, the emptiness that she feels, she does not like that, and she can't understand what it is and wants it gone. That concludes our analysis today on our podcast focusing on the novel The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath.